And it was brought to me primarily from the stimulus and the inspiration of our guru, Yoga Maharishi Dr. Swami Guru Maharaj, who was one of the leading authorities of Ashtanga Yoga in the 20th century. Swamiji obtained Samadhi in December 29th, 1993, and he had made interest in popularizing yoga, one of the pioneers of popularizing this ancient culture in modern times, having started his work back in England in the 1940s before World War II. Very grateful. He taught his Bengali tantric lineage within the framework of Ashtanga meditation. I'd like to take a few minutes to give you all a nice exercise because we've been hearing a lot of words this morning, this afternoon, and they're beautiful words, really. The last session was a very beautiful session with a lot of very big number of very sublime concepts given out by the various personalities from different paramparanas. So you all may be a bit tired of words. And my topic is classical yoga. Now, to start out, I'm finding it very difficult this afternoon to start my topic because basically the word yoga comes from the word yuj, which I think most of you know already. Yuj means union, oneness. And in this giant condo, I feel very far away from all of you. I don't know why they put the chairs so far away. So I would like you to simply pick up your chairs and come and sit in the front so I can see you. Please. And I feel a oneness with you, which I can't feel when you're so far away. And perhaps that's a good note to start on, that in order to achieve union, in order to feel the oneness, we have to be close. Very difficult to feel close to something that is far away. So basically, yoga means to become close to things, to become close to the universe, to become close to our heritage, to become close to our real nature, to become close to nature, as our organic farmer from Oregon was speaking in the last session. It's very difficult to feel oneness with nature if we're living in New York in a multi-story building 100 stories above the earth. I would say it's impossible to feel close to nature. I think it's impossible to feel close to ourselves, to our own bodies, to our own minds, to our own emotions if we're so far away from them. And the whole modern lifestyle alienates us from almost everything. Our addiction to the small screen, whether it's a computer screen, TV, cinema screen, it alienates us from our own mind, our own emotions, our own body. And it tempts us to enter into another type of maya. So now I feel a little close to you, I can see your faces, I can feel you here. And already we've taken a step towards yoga, towards union. Another speaker said earlier, it was very nice, was the gentleman from Pondicherry. He said that yoga has always been a lifestyle. It was always part of the life. It was never something separate. never something far away. It was something as close as our own breath, as close as our own daily life. Certainly here in India, in this great bhumi, punya bhumi, as we like to call it, blessed land, yoga was always part of the lifestyle. We would never have to sit and have a seminar on bringing yoga into daily life. It was part of yoga. Yoga was the daily life here. Because this was a lifestyle that was lived very closely to nature, closely to all the elements. We have to go back to the Rig Veda, back to the Vedic times, 10,000, 15,000 years ago. And imagine how they lived, so close to nature, close to the sun, close to the waters, close to the wind, close to the earth. They lived close to each other. Very beautifully structured social units. They live close to the earth. There were many rituals to help cultivate that closeness, to cultivate that sense of oneness. There was a beautiful structure of family and social life here that cultivated closeness within the social units. There were beautiful mantras and beautiful practices and beautiful concepts that help the individual feel close to the universe, to feel close to that oversoul, to feel close to that cosmic spirit. And that was the yogic lifestyle. There's no need to talk about yoga in daily life. Yoga was the daily life. It was union. It was proximity. It was closeness. Now let's zip forward to 21st century, because we understand through contrast. So let us contrast those beautiful ancient Vedic times. And I myself personally feel that there was a type of paradise here on earth in those days. That is my own personal feeling. It's still there a little bit. I never thought it would go away. When I came 50 years ago, I felt that the Rishi culture here very strongly. I felt the Rishis were here. But I would say 50 years later, I think the Rishis are retreating. There's still some. You open up your minds and your hearts, as Anandi was suggesting to us, that we sit and tune into the atmosphere. There's still some of it here. That culture from which our yoga has sprung, and please never, never, never forget, yoga has come from Rishi culture of Bharat, not from any other place. It has sprung out of this culture. So, if we want to understand classical yoga, we have to understand the Vedic culture. We have to understand how they lived, how they thought, what was their lifestyle, how did they approach life, how did they view themselves, how did they see the role of man in the universe, what was the purpose of life, and how did they achieve that purpose. So we have to go back quite a long ways. Now yoga was part and parcel of life. Classical yoga was a lifestyle. It wasn't a set of exercises, it wasn't a technology. It was more or less the way the human being lived. And the goal of that life, and it's always been the goal of life, for time immemorial in India, was nothing less than moksha, samadhi, nirvana, union with the highest self, union with the cosmic Lord, union with the oversoul, no other purpose. If some of you are looking for your life purpose, I'll tell you right now, you only have one purpose. That's to achieve moksha. To achieve that oneness, that proximity, that closeness to the universal spirit. That's what the purpose of yoga is. How to achieve that? We look at the way the rishis lived, the rishi culture, which was a yogic lifestyle, and we see they were very disciplined. They lived very simply. They lived according to cosmic law. They lived according to Dharma Raj, to Sanatana Dharma. They obeyed the rules of the cosmos. They did not try to break the rules. They did not try to jump out of the rules. They lived in harmony with those rules. So that means classical yoga implied a lifestyle that was in accordance with Dharma. The first step, the first principle of classical yoga is living according to Dharma. That means we have to find out what is our Dharma. There's a cosmic Dharma, there are cosmic laws, which we call Sanatana Dharma. Are you a lion who bites off everybody's head? Are you a jackal that feeds on other things? So we used to say, asana means what is your state is an evolution. What is your position in consciousness? But it just occurred to me when I was listening to one of the speakers that the word asa is also, asa means desire in Sanskrit. Asi, asa, they're very closely related. I'm going off on a tangent a bit, but asana, now we think yoga is asana, everybody thinks of yoga is asana. I'm trying to show you how it's come down from a very classical sense down into modern times in a very short time. So the word asana, coming from to be, asa means desire. So it's interesting because once we have the sense that we exist, it's almost as though immediately desire rises. So from asi comes asa. And then it occurred to me that asana, that asana means to negate desire. Now I don't know if that grammatically works out, but it's an interesting thought. But asana means that we go against desire. Because asana then has come to mean a body position that is held still. Now in Lord Krishna's times, it meant that. It meant a body, you hold your body still. You create a place to sit and you sit down. Asana means to sit down basically, and be. And go against desire, because if we have desires, it's hard to fulfill them when we're sitting still, isn't it? If we're sitting in Padma-asana, there's not too many desires we can fulfill sitting in Padma-asana, at least in the external world. So Krishna, when he was talking to Arjuna, just the only time he mentioned this was he said, prepare your seat, sit down, and sit straight with head and neck erect. And that's all he said. That's what asana meant 5,000 years ago. Sit down, be quiet, and hold your head and neck erect. Well, we have to come quite a ways down into the times of Atharva Veda, which nobody really knows the time it's the last of the Vedas, which is associated with Tantra. When we came down to the Tantric age, then the technology came. Tantra basically means technology, tools, instruments. And this is one of the first time that the idea of using the body as an instrument to elevate consciousness came into the classical yoga tradition. Before that, it was not really the only use of the body was to make it strong so it could sit for long periods of time quietly. Now when we came to the Tantric concepts, they started to introduce technology. If we put the body in this position, we feel this in our consciousness. If we breathe in this way, this happens. If we cleanse our body in this way, this happens. So when technology started to develop, we don't know when, around the time of the Atharva Veda, which was also associated with Tantra. So the Tantric tradition started to rise and became popular in India. Certain ideas about the technology, certain ways to hold the body, certain ways to breathe, certain ways to cleanse the body, certain ways to use the mind, certain shapes, certain sounds, certain rituals that could be done to elevate consciousness from the bound, the sense of being bound to body up into the higher realms. So So that's when our Hatha Yoga tradition started to develop. And it became very well developed maybe a couple thousand years ago, in the first turn of the century. We have to go back about 800 years before that to Patanjali, who was about 800 years before Christ, who for the first time codified some of these principles which were already in the lifestyle of this country. Patanjali did not invent yoga, he was not the founder of yoga, I think you know that. He was simply a codifier who codified these wonderful ideas into a system. And he's the first one to put a graduated system of sadhana. How to reach that high state of moksha, which he calls kaivalya, systematically. Yama niyama asana pranayama pratyahara dharma niyama samadhi. And such a genius he was. They're short, tiny little statements. They're not phrases, they're not even sentences. He gave us a template for our spiritual life. And I often tell my students, you only need 8 words to live a beautiful spiritual life. Yama niyama asana pranayama pratyahara dharma niyama samadhi. That's it. He gave us that plan. We don't need any other plan. So he did that about 2,800 years ago. Now, this was not part of the Tantric tradition. This was another, we don't really know who Patanjali was. We think he was a Kashmiri. Swamiji taught us that he was from Kashmir, North India, or Pathan, which is now in this Afghani, Pakistani, Sindhi area of this Indian subcontinent. And this was he codified these beautiful concepts so succinctly, just amazing. He really showed us how to go. But he did it in very, very obtuse language, so it's almost impossible to understand him unless you have a guru. And he did that deliberately. Because part of our classical tradition was it should be kept secret. It should not be widespread. It should not be propagated. It should be given from guru to fit student, someone who proved himself worthy of it. So this is part of that tradition, part of the classical yoga, is that it is kept secret. You think, oh my God, this is terrible. But it's not. Because these concepts are very fragile, very sensitive, very tender. And as you probably know, we should not throw pearls before swine. Jesus said that. But nobody remembers that one. So, he put his writings in language so obscure, hardly anybody could understand, unless you were initiated by the guru. This is another part of classical yoga. Teaching from a guru. And I'm not talking about hitting you on the head in initiation or waving a peacock feather over your head. I'm talking about real initiation into the spiritual life by someone who is either realized or who has gone higher than you have gone in consciousness. So the importance of the guru in classical yoga is very, very, very strong. 1 to 1, not 1 to 10,000, as has happened in modern times. 1 to 1, proximity, closeness, union. So we come down to the Tantric era, when we had the Nata yogis, the wild guys living in caves and doing tapasas, very difficult tapasas. And then those who were doing some contortionist activities, that came and that started to grow up from widespread about 2,000 years ago. So black magic started to creep in. This was all another side, the Vama Marga of the Tantric tradition. Black magic, secret rituals, and these silly things. And then the Dakshina Marga, which was based on a strong moral, ethical, discipline tradition. The asanas and the pranayamas that we know today have come out of that. When Patanjali talked about asana, all he said was Shtiram Sukhamasana. That's all. Asana is simply holding the body still in a comfortable position. That's all he said. Pranayama is simply to stop the breath. Can you imagine? That's what pranayama is to Patanjali. You stop breathing. Well, you have to understand what that means. You go into Kaivada Kambaka, Kevada Kumbaka, where your mind is so still that even the breath stops. So we've come through all these millennia very fast on a whirlwind tour, down to about 500 years ago when Hatha Yoga started to emerge as a very powerful force, with Swatmarmasuri, Yorenda, Sage Yorenda, Varakshana, who were probably all Nata yogis, probably their roots were pretty much in the Tantric tradition. And they were the first ones to really talk about yoga, naming asanas, naming pranayamas. We have 14 asanas from Hatha Yoga Pradipika, 32 from Yorenda Samhita, and Viraksha Sataka being many important asanas as well. So we started to have body positions, were given names, they were given certain values as well. And the pranayamas started to develop. Swatmarmasuri called it Kumbhaka Pranayama. So he talked about the 8 classical pranayamas, and that was only about 500 years ago. At least according to manuscripts, we don't know how old those teachings were, because many of our teachings were not written down, or the manuscripts were lost when the Mughals came and tried to destroy the culture back 1,000 years ago. So we don't know really. The manuscripts have been traced back 500 years. Now this is when that whole idea of asana became popular, but still, in classical yoga still, up to about 100 years ago, still meant Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, clean living, tapasya, high thinking, study of scriptures, quietude, service. It was only at the turn of the century that somehow this idea of asana started to catch the imagination of the world. The idea of pranayamas. Before that, usually the people practicing the asanas and pranayamas were like fakirs wandering around. And they put on shows for people, make their living, get power over people. They have their own reasons, contortionists, like doing magic tricks and skills. Which is quite fascinating, it's enjoyable, but was it part of classical yoga? And the answer is no. There's a diversion again. Somehow around the turn of the 20th century, this fascination with body position started to come up. Although in India we've always had a very strong culture of the cult of body, we've been a military culture with all the hundreds of small petty kingdoms always fighting each other. So the military tradition was always strong. We had the acrobatic, the wrestling tradition, acrobatic, gymnastic, magic has always been part of our wider spiritual reality, cultural reality. But somehow that fascination for the body, maybe it's Kali Yuga, where the mind is coming down from higher levels down into the senses, what we can see, taste, touch, and smell. And then an asana, we can see an asana, we can taste it, touch it, smell it. And the asana started to develop as a popular activity. But it's hard. And then we have our own personal dharma, our swadharma. That is our destiny. What is the destiny that we are to fulfill? As Abraham Maslow, the beautiful American psychologist, said, so wonderfully, he said, what a man can be, he must be. That is swadharma. We have to introspect, do swadhyaya. We have to know ourselves, we have to come close to ourselves, not be afraid of proximity to what we are. How we enter this life. What is the bundle of samskaras that we carry into this life? We have to know that swadhyaya. Then we have to find out how can we fulfill our destiny according to our own swadharma. What we can be, we must be. This is a beautiful way to express swadharma. So when we're talking about classical yoga, first of all we have to talk about a lifestyle that is very clean, a lives of men as the Upanishads tell us. And the path to God is the path of being alone to be alone. It's a pathless path. All these concepts show us we have to find our own way. But we can look to the guidance of the ancient ones, the rishis, and listen to their wisdom that will give us the courage to create a lifestyle which is a yogic lifestyle based on the classical principles. So I think that I've taken up my time, perhaps I've gone over a bit, and I hope I've been able to give you a little idea, small idea, in a very short time of the beauty of this great science, this great art, such a gift. Here lately we believe it has come from God, that no human mind has conceived this. This has come directly from God as a revelation, like the prophets of old in the Bible. Yoga is a revealed science, it's a revealed art, coming from higher realms to us. If we can realize the beauty of it and continue to our search using these principles as our guidelines. So I just had two of my students sit up here, so we have someone else to look at also, besides me. They're very sweet, good-looking young ladies who've come from Bhavanani from New Zealand and Ananda from Cyprus. They're trying to create their own yogic lifestyle in their own culture. Ananda is struggling to create a yogic lifestyle in Cyprus to her own particular talents. She's a theater actress, and Bhavanani is a specialist in worms. Permaculture it's called. If you want to know anything about worms, you can ask her. That's what our lives, isn't it? We find our own way. And she's doing other things also. That's not all she does. But we want to give them the principles so they can go out and construct their lifestyle, a yogic lifestyle. It is in harmony, is in resonance with our ancient rishis. I thought I'd sum up all this, what is yoga, what is classical yoga, in a few words, showing you a couple of mudras. Mudras are also tools from the Tantra. A mudra is a gesture, a body position that helps facilitate the rise of consciousness. So I thought I'll teach you a couple of mudras so you've got something to put in your kit, your yoga festival kit when you go home, along with pause and remember to remember. We have a sage who lived in Tiruvannamala. I hope some of you from abroad will visit our Arunachala. It's only 120 kilometers from here, a very magic place. He was a modern rishi, the Bhagavan Ramana Maharishi. He was a silent teacher. He taught some, he spoke some, he did speak some, he wasn't in all of them. But his only teaching really was what we say in Tamil. He was a Tamilian. He died about 1970, I think, 1950, I think, yeah, 1950 something. His only teaching was in Tamil. He'd say, Suma Ira in Tamil. That means be quiet. That was the only thing he said. Be quiet. That's what Patanjali says in the second sutra of the Yoga Sutras. He says, Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. It simply means be quiet. Isn't that strange? That's all we have to do is be quiet. Can we be quiet? How long can we be quiet? Sounds easy, doesn't it? If you want a formula for enlightenment, be quiet. I'm going to give you a formula for enlightenment. I have to do something, otherwise I'll get mad. She talked for an hour and we got nothing. So I'm going to give you the formula for enlightenment. It's not my formula. Even Moses, even Jehovah told Moses, be quiet. Moses was quite talkative. when he went up to get the 10 Commandments, and Jehovah just said, "Be still and know that I am God." But Moses was so busy talking, he didn't even recognize Jehovah when he saw him. So the basic classical teaching of yoga, which has come to us from many ways, simply be quiet. That doesn't mean I'm quiet watching Facebook, I'm quiet watching a movie, I'm quiet listening to music. It means be quiet, be close to yourself, be close to your body, be close to the earth, and be quiet. Stop the mind, turn off your computer. As a young man from Denmark told, who's using the computer? Turn the computer off and find out who's using the computer. Ramana Maharishi said, ask yourself, Koma, who am I? Who is this I? We're not going to know unless we're quiet. All we're going to know is the computer. We're not going to know the guy using the computer. So, now, first I have to teach you a few mudras, and I'm going to give you a surefire formula for enlightenment. Are you ready for it? You have to sit straight, please. Come on. Now, there's a mudra dance. It's also in yoga. Some of the mudras in dance. By the way, we are putting on our dance performance tomorrow night. We invite you to come. We'll start about 6:30 or whatever time the organizers give us. It's all on Lord Shiva, choreographed by our team from our city center. You're invited to come. A nice amalgam of yoga and classical Bhavanani tomorrow night at 6:15 on this stage. These are mudras from both dance and yoga. Here's a mudra. Can we do this? All over the world people know this, don't you? It's a positive mudra, isn't it? Thumbs up, come on. You want somebody to win. Come on, go and get it. In the Roman times, if they wanted the gladiators to live, it was thumbs up. If they wanted them to die, it was thumbs down, wasn't it? Right? So this is a feeling that has come out of our nervous system. It expresses a positivity. It expresses a triumph, a victory. Someone who's strong and powerful. It's also mudra for Lord Shiva. It's also mudra, you ladies, for husbands. The husband is represented by this. Okay? Show me this mudra. Okay? Oh. You know this mudra. What does this mean? Be quiet, husband. People are making noise. If you're a teacher especially. Come on everybody, be quiet. If you're a parent, come on, be quiet. By the way, this finger is ego finger. This is the ego finger in dance and music and classical yoga. The index finger, it's the dividing finger. You, come here, you go there. It points out, the pointer finger. It does, look the ego, be quiet on the egos. Literally, that's what this gesture means. Look ego, be quiet. Now in Bhavanani we have a very nice mudra. Here, it's used for many purposes. Here I'm using it, sometimes we use it when we need listen. Got the little finger straight up, your thumb is inside, you've got 3 fingers straight. And we are going to use it to put it by our ears, which indicates we want to hear. We do this naturally. If someone's saying something very often, we go like that, don't we? But here we're putting it in a nice mudra formula for moksha. Ready? I'll do first, you'll do with me, and then you do after us. We'll do it 3 times so it goes into your brain. Ready? Sit straight.
Sit straight.
Sit straight. Be quiet.
Be quiet.
Listen.
Listen.
Obey the Guru.
Obey the Guru.
That's it. That's it. You're there. You can do that. Sit straight.
Sit straight.
Be quiet.
Be quiet.
Listen.
Listen.
Obey the Guru.
Obey the Guru.
Sit straight.
Sit straight.
Be quiet.
Be quiet.
Listen.
Listen.
Obey the Guru.
Obey the Guru.
There you go. Now it's your job. Do it. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino